I'm Jennifer Anton. I'm the author of Under the Light of the Italian Moon, which is a novel that is inspired by true events during the rise of fascism and during the onset of World War II. The book will be coming out in March, which I'm very excited about, but I wanted to do a few videos so that I could tell you about the book, about the research behind the book, about why I wrote the book, and who it's about. So welcome, and thanks for joining me. These are going to be videos, so you can watch them again if you'd like to get more information, or if you miss anything. So just to tell you about the book, basically, when I was born, my mother was featured in a Mother's Day article in the Joliet Herald News, and it focused on the modern amenities of the hospital and of the whole birth experience in 1977 that was so different from the experience that her great-grandmother had when she was a midwife in Italy during the 1800s and early 1900s. So as a kid, I never really paid attention to that because, you just don't. And then as I got older and I started studying World War II in high school, sorry, I've got this crazy little pug here, and started studying World War II in high school, it was then that I started becoming really curious about this whole time period and what had happened with my family in Italy. So I asked my grandmother at the time, were you in Italy during World War II? And she said, yes, I was. And she started telling me some stories about the atrocities that had happened in the town that she was from, because they were from northern Italy, and that area was occupied by the Germans, and there were some very, very horrendous and difficult things that happened during the war there. So I thought that was quite interesting, but at the time, being in high school, again, didn't really focus on it. Fast forward to 2006, and I was pregnant with my daughter, and I decided, I really should get the answers to these questions that I had for my grandmother about World War II. So I sat down, I actually went to Barnes & Noble, and I purchased a notebook, a beautiful notebook that looked a lot like a book, so it already kind of got me in that mindset, and I just wrote down page after page of questions. I think I filled like 30 pages worth of questions for my grandmother, and I kind of put the notebook on the counter to the side. And then I, continued to go through pregnancy, and I went to my baby shower, and my grandmother was there. And after the baby shower, my grandmother called an ambulance and had her take her to the hospital. She ended up going into open heart surgery, and she made it through, which was great. But then she wasn't so well, so she couldn't leave the hospital. And in the meantime, I got to the end of my pregnancy. I went into labor. I had a very, very difficult time with a C-section, and that's a whole traumatic story for when we talk about midwives, maybe, because I didn't have one and I wish I would have. But essentially, I had the baby, and 2 days later, I went into heart failure with what was called a peripartum cardiomyopathy. And so when that happened, I was trying to figure out what was happening with my life. I was becoming a new mom. I had this baby, this daughter that I was trying to take care of. My mom was trying to take care of me. My mom was trying to take care of my daughter. My mom was trying to take care of her mother, all at that same time. And unfortunately, 2 weeks after my daughter was born, before she could meet my grandma, my grandma passed away. And it was really sad. I ended up writing her eulogy in that notebook that had all the questions in it that I never got answered. And from that point on, it sort of became a bit of an obsession to get the answers to all those questions that I had. So I started to spend some time with her sister, who had been there during those years when she was growing up. I started to do a lot of research, everything from looking at Ellis Island records, which are excellent, to reading a lot of books, nonfiction as well as fiction about the era. And then I started going to Italy quite frequently. So I would go and I would visit. I met, so many people that I had never even known that were relatives, and sat down and brought a translator with and started asking a lot of questions. So my poor daughter, along her years growing up as a toddler, as a small child and so forth, she was always at these tables in Italy, usually with her phone there, and I was asking questions of these older people, these 80 something, 90 something people, asking questions, trying to really dig in to my family during the rise of fascism and World War II. So the heart of the story of Under the Light of the Italian Moon is really two parts. It's a love story. It's the story of Nina Argenta and Pietro Ponte and the love story between them. Obviously, he was someone who had immigrated to the States, so the relationship was not always together. A lot of the time it was long distance. And it's really the story then about the women, Nina Argenta, as well as her mother, the midwife. The story is really about them and how they survived without men, sometimes with men, sometimes and often without men, how they helped and supported each other and what they had to survive and how they did it, which is difficult given what they went through and what they had to see. So there's a lot of themes that are in the book that I think you'll enjoy. One of the key themes is really about the strength of women, the fact that women create and yet they are forgotten, while men destroy and men create the wars and sort of make all of this destruction come forth, and they are the ones that are remembered. And my point in doing this is really to say these women are not going to be forgotten. These women will be remembered. We will continue to dig up the stories of women and bring them forward. That is a clear goal of mine, starting with my Italian family. And I think we can look to the past to determine the way forward in the present and in the future, and really think about how we can improve lives of women and how we can appreciate the strength and the power, the true power that is within women. Whether you are Italian or not, there's true power in women, and I hope that you appreciate this novel, Under the Light of the Italian Moon. It comes out in March 2021. I hope you'll enjoy it, and stay tuned for the next video. I hope soon we'll be able to have the cover reveal, so very exciting. Thank you so much. Baci, ciao.